What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and I had so much freaking fun pulling this video together for all of you. Like, not only do I just get excited when I look at, the massive sale price for a lot of these Pokemon cards, but when I do a video like this, I learn a lot about the Pokemon history. I learn a whole lot about cards that I didn't even know existed, right? Because these cards that are so expensive, they just don't pop up very often. So as I was putting this list together, I was doing some research. I learned about some really, really cool things in the hobby, and that always gets me incredibly excited. Now, not just that I think that, hey, should we talk about the 10 cards that, sold for the most amount of money on eBay? I also thought, why don't we use this opportunity just to look at eBay sales in general in 2023? So on my seller hub, I'm able to do a research, and I was researching all items that sold under the Pokemon card designation. And there was 3.73 million items that sold that had that Pokemon card tag connected to it, which is just an incredibly big number. And that was for a total of $1.27 million in sales in 2023 on the US eBay site for items that had the Pokemon card tag there connected to it. So that is just, that is such a ridiculously big number, right? When we talk about the strength of the hobby, when we talk about, are people in, are people out, like what's going on, $127 million in sales, 3.73 million items sold. Like, to me, that tells me there's a very, very robust market out there, and there's lots of people with open arms waiting to buy these awesome cards that you and I collect and invest in. Now, the other big thing, and I think I owe you a deeper data dive on this, was I looked at the average sale price. So it'll give you the average sale price of all of those items for 2023, and that number came to $34.14. But what was interesting to me was in the beginning of that time frame, so on January 2nd of 2023, the average sale price was $28.74. Then on January 1st of 2024, the average sale price was $33.13. Now that's a significant increase in average sale price over the course of the year. What was even cooler was I was able to go back and look at 2 years prior. So the average sale price in 2021 for items that are tagged with that Pokemon card designation was $33.12, right? That makes sense because we were through the pandemic pump. Cards were selling at a high velocity. They were selling for a lot of money. So that was really cool. But then in 2022, it dropped, right? It dropped to $25.92. Again, we're on the downward turn from that pandemic pump. Prices were starting to come back down and normalize a lot. But what was interesting thing to me was to see that 2023 price not only snap back up, but to snap back above the average sale price of 2021. Now, again, I haven't done enough data dives, or I haven't done just enough research yet into all of these numbers to really try and get some idea of what that means, which I will do in the future. But I thought that was really interesting that the 2023 average sale price for cards or items that are tagged with the Pokemon card designation was actually higher than 2021 when we saw all of that Pokemon madness from the pandemic pump. So, hey, listen, we do fun data dives like this all the time on the channel. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, we would love it if you do it. We're building an amazing community. We'd love for you to be a part of it. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. Those 3 small things go a long way in helping my small channel out, and I really appreciate it. So now that all of that eBay macro level view is out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the individual cards that cracked the top 10 for the most expensive ones that sold on eBay last year. So I love the fact that we're starting this list off with a gold star card, right? Like this Latios right here is absolute fire. It was an auction. There was 59 bids on this PSA 10 card right here, and it finished just above $20,000. Now, this is an absolute awesome card. These gold stars, like, everybody holds the gold stars in the highest regard. They were hard to pull to begin with, darn near impossible to pull to begin with. And now with the age, plus the fact that people weren't keeping them in good condition back there, any of these PSA 10 gold stars just go for an absolute mint. And spoiler alert, this might not be the only one you see here on the video. And the other thing that I'm going to talk about at intervals as we go through this is who you sell with and where you sell your cards absolutely matter. Now, I don't think a whole bunch of us are sitting here with PSA 10 gold stars in our Poke closet, but it is interesting. So you see, this is the actual picture from the listing that this card sold for. You'll see the word Probestein 123 down there. Probestein is a very well-known consignment seller on eBay. They do sports cards. They do, obviously, TCG cards. They do a whole lot. So it's going to be interesting as we go throughout this video. We're going to see different prices, and we're going to talk a little bit about, who sells your cards and where you sell your cards and how all of that matters, because if some of us are lucky enough to get some of these Grail cards and we do decide to flip it in the future and we do want to take a partner with that, I think it's important that we understand how we can maximize all of our investment returns. So very cool. The other thing that was interesting about this is only a pop of 26. Absolutely crazy. PSA 10 population of only 26. Understand why there was 59 bids, really furious bidding over this one, and it finished just over $20,000. Now, the very next card on the list right here, no surprise, this might not be the only one you see on the list, but the other one won't be what you think. Now, this one is a PSA 9 holder. There was only 15 bids. Obviously, the bidding probably got pretty high and it scared a lot of people off. But still, it finished at a respectable $21,000 for this 1999 first edition, holo Charizard, right? Like the holy grail of the entire hobby. Now, what was interesting when I was doing the research on this card is this exact card with the exact certification has sold 3 different times, right? So on December 13th of 2020, this exact card sold for $41,000, right? And then pretty much at the end of February of 2021, so not a very fast turnaround time. We're talking a matter of months there. Then the exact same card sold again for $42,100. Now remember that card, when you make that sale, there's going to be seller fees, there's going to be all kinds of fees that are associated with it. So if the individual flipped that card in a short amount of time, they probably ended up actually taking a small loss on it. But then what isn't a small loss is when this card actually sold on September 21st of 2023 for $21,000, right? So, I mean, you're talking a 50% loss on your investment from the end of February 2021 to September of 2023. And, it's not funny. I know, I understand what it's like to take investment losses, so I'm not laughing at that individual, but it's just crazy to think about how this card has fallen so far. We talk a lot about on this channel about, hey, buy what will go up, not what has gone up, right? When the person pulled the trigger on this card in February of 2021, like the market was getting really hot, really frothy, and it probably wasn't the best time to go ahead and buy a Grail type card like this. Now, again, hindsight's always 2020. None of us have a crystal ball, can predict the future. The Pokemon market could have just continued to go up in perpetuity. But I will say this, hey, no matter what, this is still a card that I use to keep a finger on the pulse of the hobby. $21,000 for a PSA 9, especially a PSA 9 like this that has a population of 716. Really strong, really strong price realization for this. And this is one of the cards that I chart in my Pokemon index fund that I'm about to update for you guys here in January of 2024. So with that being said, super cool card, super strong price. Always love seeing those original Zard cards on here. Now, jumping into a new grading company, we got CGC right here. And this is a 2000 Lugia Neo Genesis first edition. Now, this one was sold as a buy it now at $27,000. And I love these origin sets. You know that I absolutely think they are fire. This card, obviously, with that dark background and the hollow pattern to it, it is prone to scratching, right? And a lot of these cards from that era were, and that's what keeps them from being in that PSA 10 or CGC 10 or SGC 10 holders. And there was only 45 of these in a PSA 10. And one of the reasons I talk about PSA 10, even though we're looking at a CGC card, is because, if this individual were to buy this in a CGC 10, and if it does cross over to a PSA 10, there was one of these that sold in September of 2021 in a PSA 10 holder for $48,000. Now, as we just saw in the Charizard, the market's cooled off a lot since the end of 2021, middle of 2021, so it probably wouldn't realize that high of a price. But there is some upside here if you have a great card like this in CGC, and if you're strictly in it for the investment side of things, and you feel comfortable, go ahead and resubbing it. You can absolutely make an upsized profit on it if you can switch it from a CGC holder into a PSA one. Now, we talked about where you sell matters. Now, this card sold for $27,000 on eBay as a buy it now. 5 months later, this exact same card sold at a golden auction for $8,600. Now, I don't know if it's the exact same certification. There's a really low population here in the CGC 10 space. So it might have been another CGC 10. It might have been this exact card. But either way, think about it. This card sold on eBay for $27,000, and then on Golden, a small 5 months later, sold for $8,600. This is why I say where you sell matters, right? Like the big auction houses, PWCC Golden, this is just my opinion, I feel like they don't attract some of the whales in the Pokemon buying space, right? I feel like eBay is the best spot where I think you have the opportunity to get your TCG cards in the front of the most people. Now, if you're talking about sports cards, PWCC and Golden, I think they do a great job of it. I think they're still finding their feet in the TCG space. So for me, I still think eBay is the spot to buy and sell, the big value Pokemon cards. And we'll see that throughout the course of this video. So really interesting sale price on this. Fascinating to see that at 5 months later, one sold for, a quarter of what this sold for on eBay. Really fascinating. So Next card right here, these are the cards that I absolutely love. Obviously, I love all these cards, but the thing I love about this is a card that was earned, right? This was earned through an epic achievement in the TCG space, right? This is the 2004 Tropical Wind World Cup quarterfinals. So you had to make it to the quarterfinals of the World Cup in order to get these cards. Now, these cards are super rare, obviously. There's very few that are in existence, even fewer that come up for sale, on the secondary market, and I don't blame everybody, right? Like, if I'm a football player and I win the Super Bowl, I'm gonna keep my Super Bowl ring, right? This is the equivalent to all of them. Even though this isn't for the finalist and it's not for the winner, guess what? Quarterfinals is a heck of an achievement. So understandably why these don't come out to market very, very often. Now, there's only 3 of these in a PSA 9, only 1 in a PSA 10. Now, this sold at a buy it now for $30,000, and I think that is absolutely awesome. I can't imagine the type of internal conversation you would have to be to come to the point where you're willing to part with something as cool as this. But $30,000 is a lot of cheddar, so that might get me over the hump. But a really cool card and a really strong price appreciation for that one. Now, listen, this Osceola right here, Extra Battle Day card. Extra Battle Day, I knew nothing about before I went ahead and did this video, so I'm going to tell you, in case you don't know, like me, what the Extra Battle Day event was in Japan. So basically in Japan, in 2019, for October and November, they did this event where players would go in and they would play. And listen, the cool thing is this. Players weren't just ranked on wins and losses. Like, they started with wins and losses, but then they ranked them over the margin of victory. So the higher margin of victory and the more wins you had, the higher you were ranked. And then get this, how crazy is this? I sure hope all the research I did is factual on this, because this part is just absolutely crazy. But they said that not only that, but then after that, you had to play a game of rock, paper, scissors against your fellow competitors, and the winner got a pack of very rare Pokemon cards. And there were 17 total cards in this Extra Battle Day set. And each pack had 3 full art, it had 1 of the 3 full art cards in it, right? So out of the 17 possible cards, 3 of them were full arts, and each pack only had 1 of the full arts. So these are just absolute crazy cards. The price for these are absolutely insane. There's another one further down the list, and the other one further down the list, there were actually 4 sales of that individual card that would have qualified it for the top 10 most expensive cards that sold on eBay. So talk about super, super high value. Now, this one right here, the population is small, but it is not minuscule, right? The PSA 10 pop on this is 214. Now, when we talk about cards that are selling for $34,000 freaking dollars, right? Like, 214 is not what I consider a small pop, right? Then the PSA 9 population is 112, so there's a decent number of these out in the market, but super, super high demand. Again, $34,000 for this card from 2019 is absolutely insane, and the story behind it is even crazier. Now, next one right here is this Typhlosion right here. And the interesting thing about this is you see that I have that yellow circle over that little red dot next to the star right there. So this is a card that is officially dubbed an error card. Now, I know there's a lot of people who enjoy misprints and miscuts and, all of these crazy things with the printing quality, but this is officially designated as an error card. So there's this red dot, and the red dot's got, a little bit of a yellowing around it, and it's right next to that star symbol. And the rumors are that this designates that this card was from the very first print run of the first edition of that Neo Genesis. So not only first edition, but the first print run of the first edition. So this card has a crazy high collectability to it. People love it. They think that red dot, is something incredibly special, which obviously it is. And this card only has a PSA population of 12, and so this card sold for $45,000 freaking dollars, which is absolutely insane. I mean, this is not what I would consider, a top 5 big name Pokemon. But again, we see this time and time again. Cards with great stories, great rarities, great uniqueness to them, they can go ahead and command these huge prices. So again, there's only a PSA pop of 12, absolutely rare, and coming in at $45,000 is crazy, and I love the story behind this. Absolutely fire card right there. Now, this is the one I was referring to for the Extra Battle Day. This is the Lily right here. Now, this was a PSA 9, not even a PSA 10. This was a PSA 9 that sold as a buy it now for $46,500. Now, remember, I told you about the rock, paper, scissors story. I told you about how every pack had 1 of those full arts in it. But guess what? It was rumored that out of all of the full arts, the Lily was the rarest of them all. Now, the PSA population report doesn't really seem to support that, because there's almost as many PSA 9s and 10s graded to the Lily as there were of the other one that we talked about, coming right in about 310, but it's really interesting to hear that. And I'm going to tell you right this is the one where we had so many of them that were in the top 10, I had to just bundle it up into one so we could look at some other awesome cards. But a lot of people feel that this is like the rarest ultra modern Pokemon card that is out there. So I don't know if there's any of that true. Again, the PSA population report signifies that there's a similar number of these on the market as there is the other one. But again, PSA 9 pop is 109, PSA 10 pop is 200. 202, and this PSA 9 sold for $46,500. Absolutely insane. It is a stunner of a card, so I get it, but man, I don't know if I could spend almost $47,000 on a 2019 Pokemon card. I just don't think that's in the cards for me. So, very next one right here. Getting back into the old school, getting back into these gold stars, a 2005 Ray right here. Absolutely love this card. Now, again, you know, we saw the first gold star, didn't quite have the power or the name brand of Rayquaza, right? So obviously this one's going to get top dollar. Another card that sold from that Probostine right there. Now, when I say this, you know, it's very important. Like I said, you know, if you're going to choose to sell your cards, you know, who you sell with, where you sell with matters. But I absolutely love this. Now, these are nearly impossible to find rarer cards like this moving forward in the future, just because of the print runs, you know, and just because, you know, Pokemon Company doesn't quite do them like this. As I said in the first time when we looked at the Gold Star, like these were incredibly hard to pull in the beginning, and then they were incredibly rare to find nowadays in great shape. So super cool card, super crazy price, almost $49,000 for this card in a PSA 10 gem mint. There's a PSA 10 pop of 48, and listen, even though the pop of this is higher than the first one that we talked about, simply because it's got the name brand recognition, it commands a much higher price point. So now we're starting to get into it. Now here's this one right here, and I love this. Again, another really unique card that I didn't know anything about until we started this video. Until I pulled all this together, I had no clue that this card even existed, right? So the Daisuke Club, right? The Daisuke Club is basically the Japanese Pokemon fan club, which is really cool. And they do all of these different mini games, and they do all these different things that you can do to earn points. So in 2010, if you earned 7,200 points or more in the Daisuke Club, you were awarded this Umbreon card. Now, I think Umbreon has had a fantastic 2022 and 2023. I think ever since Evolving Skies came out and the Moonbreon, you know, was obviously the big chase card of the Sword and Shield era. I just think Umbreon has been riding this wave of popularity. It was always a very popular Pokemon, but I think that has just really propelled it to new heights. So again, this is just another Japanese promo card that is absolutely fire. Another card that I love because it's earned, not given. You can't buy it. You got to do the work in order to get this card. So I absolutely love that. A PSA 10 pop of only 37. Again, another just absolute stunner of a card. And you know, 2010 is a long time ago, but it certainly isn't, you know, back in 1999 or 2005 like some of the other cards that we looked at. So a 2010 card with a pop of only 37. Awesome card, awesome Japanese promo. I just think this card's fire, and it's sold for $49,000. Oh my gosh, absolutely insane. I love it. I also love how dark the card is, right? Like Umbreon's obviously a black Pokemon, and then you got the dark borders and you got the sparkles in it. I don't know, everything about this card just gets me excited. I love it all. Now, getting into the final one right here, this was the most expensive card that was sold on eBay in 2023. First edition Charizard, no surprise here, but it was in a CGC 10 holder. Now, there was a furious bidding going on for this. There was 62 total bids, and it finished at $76,000. Now, that is a huge number for any Pokemon card. $76,000 is nothing to shake a fist at, but, you know, it's in a CGC slab. I think we all know and feel very confident that if this was in, say, a PSA slab, it would have gone much higher. Matter of fact, you know, I went ahead and did the research on it, and PSA 10s have a value right now of about $182,000, right? So again, over double what this card sold for on eBay. Now, I don't know if I would have the stones to fly out to California and go to PSA myself, and like, you can pay a certain amount of money and literally walk your card through the grading process. This might be one where just the upside is so great that I would go and I would work with them and I would crack it and walk them through, you know, the PSA grading process and see if that I couldn't possibly turn this into a PSA 10 because the upside is so great. But to be honest with you, I was a little disappointed with this final sale price. I love PSA, I'm a PSA guy, but I really want these other brands to start kind of building themselves up, so and finding values in the cards that they sell as well, because PSA can't be alone. We need another grading company to come in and really challenge them. But nonetheless, listen, still an amazing card. I mean, look at the centering on this. Again, another card from Probostine right there. I mean, that company just must be absolutely raking it in from a commission standpoint. But hey, listen, the centering on the card's perfect. This is absolutely the holy grail of the Pokemon collecting hobby. And anytime one of these sells, really in any grade whatsoever, it's a big deal. And it's something that I know I dream about at night. I don't know if I'm ever going to have the wherewithal to have this in my collection in any grade, but I do think it's really cool. And I love seeing things like this when they happen. So listen, everybody, this was a fun video. I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot. Listen, these are the things that really kind of make this channel as much fun as it is. So if you enjoyed it as much as I do, hit that subscribe button. Questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. I appreciate you more than you know. I hope you have an epic one, and I'll be talking to you soon. See you later, everybody. Bye.